would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which I live and work, the Gundungurra land and people. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I also want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which you, our listeners, are joining us from today. I recognise the deep connection that First Nations people have to this land, their enduring culture, and their commitment to the preservation and care for their country. This land was never ceded, and it always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Hey there, and welcome to Beyond the Surface, the podcast where we explore the stories of people who have survived religious trauma, left high control or cult communities, and are deconstructing their faith. I'm your host, Sam, and each week I'll talk with individuals who have taken the brave step to start shifting their beliefs that might have once controlled and defined their lives. Join us as we dig into their experiences, the challenges they've faced, and the insights they've gained. Whether you're on a similar journey or you're just curious about these powerful stories, you're in the right place. This is Beyond the Surface. Welcome, Jodie. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Sam.
I'm excited. I always feel so nice when I chat to other Australians. It's like chatting to someone who feels like home because it's like, I love chatting to people internationally, but it's just like nice and homely hearing an Australian accent on the
It's
other
a very
side.
strong one down here. So Southwest Victoria, we're a farming
Yes.
community. It's a very strong.
So usually I say, where in the world are you? So Southwest Victoria. What's the weather like there now? Freezing?
Oh, awful. But last day of winter, so it's looking good. And we're right on the coast, so it's always very windy.
Oh, is that nice though?
Oh, it's like paradise, but we have Victorian weather to keep us hot.
Yeah.
So it,
Yeah. I think for people who are not in Australia, Victorian weather is not a good thing when we say that.
4 seasons in one day, basically.
Yes.
The sun's out now.
Um,
Very beautiful.
beautiful. Okay, so as you know, because I know that you listen to the episodes, I like to start these episodes with a very, very broad, vague question. Where does your story start?
It would start with my grandparents, my mum's parents. So when she was 9 months old, she was their firstborn. They
Mm.
were told about our church, which was the Geelong Revival Centre.
Mhm.
Um, and they were told about World War III, and they were terrified for this little child of theirs. So they had friends who were Catholics who had been converted. So my grandma didn't want to be told by a Catholic that she was wrong. But
Yeah.
they ended up joining this church, and they had another 5 children. And so it's all I've ever known, basically. My dad actually came along as a 16-year-old. He was very intelligent teenager, but was just looking for more to life, basically. He was witness to. And so my parents met in church, got married.
Mhm.
So I was fourth generation because my grandparents were saved and their
Yeah.
parents. So it's basically all I ever knew. So
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Melbourne.
Mhm.
Do you want me to keep going with
Yeah,
my
it's
my story?
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so um, I lived in a really happy family. It's kind of stuff I'm realizing now. I assumed everyone in our church had this, but
Yeah.
the older I get, the more I realized I was really fortunate. My parents had a happy marriage. It
Mm.
was my sister and I. She's 3 years younger than me. My dad had a good job, so we never lacked for anything.
Mm.
They valued our family time. So every weekend, it was just it was really wholesome way to grow up. Basically, we had this community. Our church was our whole life.
Mm.
Like we didn't have friends outside the church. Anyone who ever came to our house, and there were lots of,
Mm.
we had a very open door policy. My parents were very hospitable. So we often had visitors. They
Yeah.
were only ever from our church. Like we had school friends, but we didn't do anything outside of school. They were basically, we needed them so we weren't lonely during the day at school. But our whole
Yeah.
life, like any meeting we were at, every meeting we were at, every outing, it was like
Mm.
all we knew. And it was a really wholesome life. It really was. Like we had a happy home life. My parents had a happy marriage. So I
Mm.
thought I'd hit the jackpot. I felt very privileged, and all the glory for that was because of this church we're in. Like
Yeah.
everything I had was because God gave it to me, basically.
Yeah,
So
so I think we might pause for a second and just go because a lot of people are going to have absolutely no idea who the Geelong Revival Centre are, particularly international people. What sort of church were you growing up in?
it was fundamental Christianity. It was funny. People used to ask that, and we are like, oh, like it was, we didn't really have a name for it.
Yeah.
Um, there was actually a podcast done on the
Mm.
Geelong Revival Centre. And ironically, every different assembly had a different name. So
Right.
it
I don't
was,
even think I knew that.
you won't find them online. There's your
Yeah.
first red flag, I think. But no,
Gosh.
we're basically, it was very much, we stuck to the King James Bible. The foundations of our faith or our church were that you must receive the Holy Spirit. And the evidence of that was speaking in tongues
Yeah.
and full immersion baptism. And if you didn't have those two things, you weren't going to make it to heaven.
Yeah.
There was one leader of the church. That's why it was called the Geelong Revival Centre. The head was in Geelong,
Mm-hmm.
in Corio, of all places. So, like, God's elect on earth were in Corio in Geelong. And if you know Corio, it's like, another red flag. But anyway, um, so we were quite like, there's probably at its peak.
Mm.
It started, how far do we go back? In the 50s, and then we split away from a bigger group.
Yeah.
Um, and that group were like backslide. Everyone else, any other Christian basically, were backsliders or lukewarm
Right.
Pentecostals, but we had the truth and we were really strict. And
Right.
we weren't even allowed to associate with others who weren't branches from our church,
Yeah,
basically.
because when you said like we didn't really have any other friends, my first thought was like, did you not because you're in a bubble, or were you not allowed to have any other friends outside of that group as well?
Well, really, we weren't allowed, but
Yeah.
it was like, we don't have rules. We have guidelines for your spiritual well-being.
Okay, so rules.
Yeah, yeah, basically, yeah,
Right.
complete. But it's for your own good. So, like,
Yeah.
but why would you choose to not do it? Because that's not good for your salvation. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it was a small, in short,
Yeah.
fundamental Pentecostal Christians ended up having assemblies all over the world,
Mm.
um, in the islands, in India,
Mm.
colonization. Look, I have issues with that now, but like now that I've
Yeah.
had time to deconstruct, I see how problematic that was. But we were saving the world.
Yeah.
And basically, yeah, we were the only one true church, which is classic cult 101, right?
Yeah. I mean, what did you think of it when you were a kid and like a young teen? Like, what did you think of this whole thing?
I was fully in. I
Yeah.
I loved my life. My whole life was my church. It felt wholesome. I had the most beautiful community around me, like-minded people. I wasn't hurting anyone. Like I fully believed it, and I fully believed that all the good things in my life were because of this church and because we were doing God's will.
Yeah.
Um, I was, I, I didn't start to question things, honestly. I'm
Yeah.
almost ashamed to say until like my late 30s. I was in until I was 42.
Mm.
So because it was my whole life, and it is
Yeah.
I'm I'm very careful not to say it was all bad because it wasn't. When you
Oh,
agree
yeah.
with it,
Yeah.
and until you start seeing cracks,
Yeah.
it's just all about, for me, it was all about, I felt safe, I
Mm.
felt peaceful, I had a community, and I had a happy home life. And I've come to learn, like even with my husband, not everyone in the church had a happy home life. I thought everyone did. And
Yeah.
I also had a huge extended family. I haven't mentioned that, but my grandparents, my granddad, my papa went on to become an elder in the church,
Right.
and they had 6 kids. So I had this huge extended family. We were
Mm.
all very close. So, and I had great friends in the church.
Mm-hmm.
In my late teens, I lost a few friends to
Yeah.
the world. Um, yeah, they fell in love, or they just wanted to live, right? Because we
Yeah.
didn't drink, we didn't smoke, we didn't go to parties,
Yeah.
dance, all that stuff. So, when
Yeah,
I was,
there's a weird dance concert rule from GRC, isn't there?
do you know what? I was actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I was watching my daughter, she was in her school production of Footloose
Yeah.
last week, and she was one of the main characters. She's 15.
Oh.
And I got quite emotional watching her. It was so beautiful. She was dancing a little heart out. She was singing. And then I got quite emotional for me, and I'm like, I was never allowed to dance. Like
Yeah.
I didn't dance. Like we wanted dancing at our wedding. We wanted this barn dance. Like, can you get more wholesome? No, we just it was like a gateway to
Mm.
sin.
Right.
But I
Okay.
mean, it's biblical, right? Like there's a time to mourn and a time, as they say in Footloose.
Yeah, I was like, isn't there a proverb or something about dancing? Yeah.
Like they kind of portrayed that in Footloose. I'm like, why did I never use that one? Because I was a good girl. I didn't want to push any boundaries. I never did.
Yeah, right. Okay. I mean, and it's such a like I always joke that I think churches have just got shit backwards because they think that like sex, drugs, and rock and roll is like the gateway out of the church, but most of the time it's like nature and self-reflection and
Yeah,
reading
critical
and
thought.
like critical thinking.
Yeah.
And it's like all of these very basic things, and that's more like if I was to survey all of the people that I've had on the podcast, I'm not sure that sex, drugs, and rock and roll are any of the gateways
No,
out of the church for any
no,
of them.
no.
So, it's just it's humorous to me when things like, concerts and music and dance are the things that they're restricting of all
And
things.
even at the time, that wasn't such an issue to me. But I think
Yeah.
because I had a happy life and I really was like, and I am now a chronic people pleaser. My parents are awesome. No shade on my parents at all for
Yeah.
this upbringing I had. They thought they were doing the best for us, and
Mm,
we did have a great life. But I just, and I still am struggling with this. I never wanted to disappoint them.
yeah.
My dad never yelled, like they never yelled. They were very wise, beautiful parents, but
Mm,
I felt God was watching me at all times. And I
mhm.
never wanted to disappoint anyone. I just wanted my whole thing, and genuinely, like this wasn't a show. I just wanted to be a blessing. I wanted to be, we would say, edifying, like
Mhm.
leave people better than you found
Yeah.
them. Like you just want to say something that's going to make someone happy or build them up. That was me. I was quite a quiet kid and quite a quiet teen.
Yeah.
But I only ever wanted to be like a good example. So
Yeah.
not hopefully that wasn't too annoying as as a team, but we moved over actually the day after my last year 12 exam.
Mm.
We moved from Melbourne to the UK.
Ah,
My sister was 15, I was 18. We moved over there. They needed a pastor in the UK, and my dad was British. So we moved over there and he became a pastor.
right.
Yeah. So I feel like that. I don't know if my life would have looked different if we didn't have that. I think
Yeah.
because another thing about the church, people married young,
Mm.
because no sex before marriage. So,
You got to.
but well, and we weren't really encouraged to have careers as
Yeah.
women. That's a whole other thing we could
Yeah, I
talk.
was about to say, I mean, like marriage is put on a pedestal. Like your job as a young woman is to get married and have babies, right? Like
Yeah,
that's your sole
that's your
purpose.
worth. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Winning souls and being a good wife and mother. That's basically my worth.
Yeah.
And again, I'm so grateful for my parents and their wisdom in that I feel like we lived a really good life within these boundaries. We
Yeah.
moved to the UK, and I think my dad realized I was 18. There weren't many men over there. Like we had to marry within our church.
Mm.
And I was related to most people. So like that's fraught.
Yep.
So the pool was not huge.
Yeah.
And moving over there, he encouraged me to, I was allowed to go to uni, which most girls weren't encouraged
Go,
to.
Dad.
My dad had gone to uni, so that was quite controversial. And he encouraged us to travel as well, which again, probably wasn't
I
the
mean,
norm.
also as a pastor, that's risky to like
Yeah.
to allow
Well, in
to not just
hindsight,
allow, but like encourage you to go and do
yeah.
those things.
Yeah, well, in hindsight, my dad did break the mold
Right.
in a few, which was probably his downfall in the end. Which we'll talk more about that. But he was
Yeah.
he was just a very wise man. He was very loved. He's still
Yeah.
alive. I talk him about him in past tense.
Yeah.
He's a very wise man. He was very loved within our church because he was gracious and
Yeah.
wasn't lawful. And in the last few, probably even decade in our church,
Mm.
there were a lot of minion pastors that were very lawful because the world's getting darker, so we need to get tougher. And my
Mm.
dad didn't fit that mold, and
Yeah.
people loved him for it. But yeah, so I was very fortunate that we
Yeah.
moved to the UK. I got a great job. I loved my job, almost
Mm.
a career, but not really. And I
Yeah.
was just waiting to get married. But yeah, I was 23 and still on the shelf. Had I
Oh,
been asked out by a few brothers,
It's about 4 years too late, Jodie.
Well, no, honestly, and I'll tell you that messed with me. Like all my friends were married. It really it did a number on me on my self-confidence.
Yeah.
I had it again, I've only kind of unpacked it in
Mm,
the last few years, but I developed a really pretty serious eating disorder in
yeah.
those years. I was bulimic for 6 years. Um, and at the time I felt it was because I had zero self-worth. Like I just
Yeah.
wasn't I didn't assume anyone wanted me, but now I see that was a control thing too. That was something I could control,
Yeah.
whereas the rest of my life felt completely out of control,
Yeah.
like out of my control. Like I couldn't ask a guy out, they
Yeah.
had to ask us.
Yeah.
So, and I couldn't go out with anyone outside the church. And I remember saying to my mum, I'd just been on a big world trip and got home, and my little sister started dating a guy. And I
Oh,
was like, I'm disgusting. No one wants me. It was pretty awful. I said to mum, I don't believe I'm ever going to get married.
yeah.
And she's like, well, God's promised, which was, she said all the right things. But I was 23. I already felt like I was good for nothing. But even then, that wasn't enough to make me consider leaving. Like I would have been more prepared to be
Mm,
single and never have kids than
mm,
to like leaving was just not an option. It
yeah.
just was never an option.
Yeah. And I imagine, like, was part of that because, and I hear this so often. And I mean, I didn't get married until I was like, 26 or something like that. And I also had that moment, like, years where I was like, shit, this is never gonna happen.
Yeah.
But it was always my fault.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't the church's fault. It
Yeah.
wasn't God's fault. It wasn't anybody else's fault. It
Yeah.
was like there was something in me that was like, repelling all of these men,
Yeah.
right? Like it was my
Yeah.
sin, it was my brokenness, it was my fault.
Yeah. I
So was that
internalized
the
that
same for
for
you?
sure. Yeah. And
Yeah.
look, I had one beautiful older lady in our assembly say to me, just make sure you don't leave it too late. Like,
Oh,
yeah, like I have any say in this, love. Like I
yeah.
have to just sit here and wait. There's
Yeah.
nothing I could do. Um, but yeah, look, and in later years, this
Mm,
really worried me for my
yeah.
daughter. I've got two boys and a girl, and this was a huge part of me thinking,
Yeah.
what am I offering my kids with this? What are we doing to our kids?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the pool in that church is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Mm,
And like what if my daughter doesn't find someone there or ends up in an unhappy marriage, which is so
yeah.
common because a lot of people you have to settle.
Yeah.
It's what like I've got friends my age that have never been asked to be married and are now single and they've missed their opportunity to have kids. And I think,
Yeah.
who am I to do that to my kids?
Mm,
Like, you
yeah.
can't help who you fall in love with. What if you fall in love with someone?
Yeah.
Like, you can't control that. But anyway, it was,
And so throughout, like while you're in the UK and you are like doing very worldly things like travel and go to uni and all of that sort of thing, who was God to you? What was your faith like during that period of time?
still everything.
Yeah.
So I just still then, and I actually didn't end up going to uni. I ended up getting a traineeship
Oh,
and
right.
kind of learnt on the job, which was a blessing. No, God was just everything. Like I would say in my testimony that, and probably more after I got married, but there
Mm,
was nothing in the world that could tempt me because I knew God had a plan for me. And so I saw a good marriage modeled in my parents. So I just expected that, like probably very naively. I
mm,
was like, no, no, God's got that in hand for me. And
yeah.
so he was still like my conscience. And
Mm,
I did feel like I felt peaceful. And I think, again, now that I'm unpacking this, I think I am naturally an optimistic person, but I truly believed
yeah.
still then that
Yeah.
everything good in my life was because I was following God
Yeah.
and I was living the right way. So even then, like,
I mean,
every,
it's the power of indoctrination as
yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
which is that, like, why would you believe anything else as well? Like, you'd never had anything else presented to you, modeled to you, or said to you. So, I sort of like balk at the word naive because, like, what else were you supposed to think during that period of time? Nothing else was presented to you.
Yeah. And you have, what is that? Confirmation bias. So
Yeah.
I would go looking for things to confirm. And
Yeah.
I had some good friends actually at work who are still my friends now from the UK. And one of my friends would say, everything you touch turns to gold. And I
Oh,
would say, yeah, that's because I have God in my life. And look, I was a zealot, but not to the point where I would go to people, hey, by the way, you're going to hell. You need to come along. But because
yeah.
I always felt uncomfortable with that.
Mm,
But I would subtly, everything was to the glory of God. And if
yeah.
like a friend was struggling, I'd be like we could pray for you. So I was a zealot,
Yeah.
but I tried to be a really kind one.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's like I even sort of like say with the person who like showed me like the gospel, the person who like led me to being saved, quote unquote. I always have said that she showed me the love of Jesus rather
yeah,
than like fear-based, like if you don't do this, you're going to hell. And
yeah,
like as you're talking, that's the
yeah,
phrase that's coming to mind is like that one that is like thrown out in church spaces to like go out and be the light in the
yeah.
world.
That was
That's what's coming to mind.
that
Yeah.
was the edification,
Yeah.
really edifying. Yeah, I did. I just wanted to be, I know, positive
Mm,
and hopeful, and
yeah.
I think I believe that was all because yeah, look, I'm
Yeah.
still unpacking all that. I think I
Yeah.
am just a naturally optimistic person.
Uh,
But yeah, so we continue, and I ended up, I did get married in
Yes.
there. My husband was traveling from Australia, and we met, and we're celebrating 20 years. So
Oh,
thankfully, it worked out well for me. We're coming up to our
yeah.
20th year, so luckily, it worked out well for me, and but we had to move back. I live in Warrnambool at the end of the Great Ocean Road, in Victoria. That's because that's where he was from, and we wanted to stay in the UK. There was a smaller assembly there, but that's just not. You just didn't do that. You had to go where the men went. So we moved back here. We even asked if we could stay because everybody wanted us to stay. We wanted to stay, but our
Yeah.
pastor was like, no precedents will be set. So we
Oh,
moved back here. And lucky for me, I love it here. Like I honestly, it is paradise, but with
yeah.
Victorian weather. So it worked out well for me. I love the ocean, I love the beach, and I love
Yeah.
raising kids here. But yeah, didn't have any choice in it.
Yeah, and so like what impact did that have? And also how did church life change now that you had like you were married? Like
Okay,
you
yeah.
would like reached the peak. The only other step above that is to have babies.
Well, now, like to prove that I could be a good wife and mother,
Yeah.
basically. So I worked here for a little while and then fell pregnant with our first
Yeah.
and quit my job, of course, because that's what you did. So we got a mortgage on one wage, and I
Yeah.
was quite happy doing, like, I was quite happy
Mm.
with that. That's fine. But I ended up like just having things land on my lap. Like I got freelance work when I was pregnant. I was a graphic designer, got freelance work, and that merged or somehow morphed into photography. And people just kept asking me. And again, it was, oh, the Lord just keeps placing all this stuff in my lap. And
Yeah, it's
so,
never your like you never get
no,
any of the
no.
benefit of
No,
that.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
It was never about me. But I developed this beautiful little photography business. Kids, it's a
Yeah.
small town. Warrnambool's the best. It's full of the best people. Small town. Word of mouth is king.
Yeah.
And I developed this little photography business. So I'm raising my children. I'm a stay-at-home mum
Mm.
proudly. And then I never put my kids in daycare. Like we weren't allowed daycare. So we were trad wives, basically.
Yeah, I was like, this is sounding mighty familiar.
Yeah, no, I'm like a failed trad wife. That's
Well,
my whole story.
or a successful one, depending on the
Oh,
perception
I
you
nearly,
look at
yeah.
it.
But like, and because it's a like visual medium, I had an Instagram account for my
Yeah,
photography and
right.
Facebook account, which again, social media, no, just
Mm.
no. But we were, I've always been quite lucky. The three assemblies that I lived in, Melbourne, the UK, and here, I've
Mm.
had really good pastors. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I had probably the best of the bunch, and they were
Yep.
quite um well, our assembly here in Warrnambool towards the last few years was called the backslidden assembly because we're a bit loose.
Oh,
So
right.
and he was okay with me having social media as long as it was for work. So but every time I posted a picture or did anything, it was like, am I being a good testimony? Am I being a blessing? And so like every post was like, I've just put the kids to bed, they're napping, so now I'm working. It was like everyone needed to always know that I was a mum first.
Yes,
It's all
right.
about what I was projecting. to the world. So even then, like in every aspect of my life, it's always like, am I being a blessing? Am I being a good testimony?
Yeah.
Is this going to hinder people getting saved? Like that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I was like, that sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like how did you feel throughout all of this? Like, did you notice the exhaustion at the time, or do you just
So
reflect back and see it?
I reflect back and see it, but
Yeah.
I just thought I was the luckiest person in the world. Honestly, I did. And I still do. I
Yeah.
just had this little business that I loved that I meant I could stay home with my kids.
Yeah.
And then Adam, my husband, would get home and I'd quickly go out and photograph a family during sunset. And I was meeting all these beautiful people. And
Yeah.
it was, there were so many levels to this, but we could never have afforded to go and see my family in the UK on one wage. We just wouldn't have been able to do it. So for me, I saw that as the Lord, because God, the Lord,
Mm.
blessing us so that we could
Yeah.
go see our family.
Yeah.
Um,
The
and
mental
also,
gymnastics we play
oh,
to make shit make
honestly,
sense.
it's like I had to justify it. And I didn't talk
Yeah.
about the work in the assembly. I didn't talk about it because I knew people were opinionated about it.
Yeah.
Like, and I was so paranoid of being called a working mother. I was so, like, honestly, everything I posted was like, this is my little side hobby. Like, it was never a business. And I'd created this awesome little business. No,
Yeah.
it was no, it's just everything. It's a lot of pressure. It is a lot of pressure. More, even more exhausting than the time. It's the pressure we put on ourselves as women in that
Yeah.
church is immense. But it was also kind of part of my undoing because I was meeting like some of my friends now,
Mm.
excellent, excellent humans I met through work.
Mm.
And I was starting to be like, hang on, I know some really awful people in our assembly that are spirit filled and, have the
Hmm.
truth. And I'm meeting all these people that aren't spirit filled, so they're
Mm.
not right with God.
Yeah.
And they were the kindest, most beautiful people I'd met. And so that cognitive dissonance of
Yeah.
that was kind of the start of my undoing, really.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, who am I to say I've got the truth? And that's a whole other thing that I'm very careful not to criticize people's beliefs because I'm
Yeah.
a work in progress with that. But the whole like speaking in tongues was like the foundation of our church. But
Yeah.
I don't believe it necessarily makes people better. And that's controversial
No.
to say, but
Yeah.
so anyway, yeah, that was like having that little job was probably, and I had a really supportive husband who was like my biggest cheerleader, and I knew
Yeah.
that was rare. So I felt very lucky. I don't even know if I answered your question then.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
okay. That's all right. Half the time, once the question's out of my mouth, I don't remember what I've asked anyway. So, asking me what it was is a fraught exercise. But as you sort of say that, I think the biggest thing for me is it's not about beliefs, it's about behavior. And I know that that's a
Yes,
big thing that we're talking about at the moment with the
completely.
Victorian inquiry and things like that. And it's, in places like this, it's the moral superiority that they feel they have because they have the right answers, they have the only truth, all of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, speaking in tongues, I want to know how you feel about that now after the fact because I'm assuming you were that spirit-filled woman
Oh
back in
yeah,
the
we
day.
had to be. Yeah,
Hmm.
10 years old.
Yeah.
Um,
So how do you
and
feel about that now?
I feel nervous answering this
Yeah.
because it is so controversial because
Yeah.
it was about, and I'll tell more about my story. So it is quite
Yeah.
controversial, I feel, to talk about it, but I just don't believe that it guarantees that people are better humans. I just
Yeah.
don't. And I'm unpacking a lot of that, which is
Yeah.
a big deal
Yeah.
for me to talk about it because I still have so many people I love that it is fundamental
Yeah.
to their being right with God.
Yeah.
I just I don't see proof of that.
Yeah.
I just yeah, I've seen too many awful people, and I think self-righteousness to me is the ugliest human trait in the world. I really do.
Yeah.
And from my experience, any place that claims to have the
Mm.
monopoly on the truth, and I
Yeah.
just don't see much good coming from that. I really don't. So I
Yeah.
have a complex relationship with it, to
Yeah.
be honest, that I'm
Yeah.
still unpacking.
Yeah, it's complicated and there's so many layers to so much of the shit that we've all been through in these spaces, in high control spaces. And it's not simple. It's not easy to unpack. It's complicated. There are like intense emotions and experiences that are attached to a lot of this stuff as
Yeah.
well. So it takes time to unpack.
Yeah. And I mean, I only left less than 3 years ago. And
Yeah.
I even find myself, because part of it's whether I actually believe it or it's just indoctrination and
Yeah.
instinct, because that's all I've ever known. But even like being nervous about this interview,
Yeah.
asked me would have been like, oh, I need to pray about it.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
even
I
that,
feel like
like,
I still have that
alive.
knee-jerk reaction
Yeah. And
sometimes.
I don't
Yeah.
feel that's bad. Like, I think I still believe there's more to,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, but I feel like it's healthy to believe in something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot. It takes a while to unpack that. I feel like anything I say now, I might look back on that in 6 months and go, "Oh, you had no idea." Like you've come such a
Yeah.
long way.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that that part of that is just allowing like growth. I was about to say evolution. I was like, that'll trigger the shit out of
I've
people.
used that.
But like human evolution and
Yeah,
change and growth, and we are supposed to grow as
yeah,
humans. And I think sometimes the difficulty in high control spaces like that is that you don't grow mentally and psychologically because you are not allowed to use your
can't.
brain typically to,
You can't.
critically analyze and think about things. And so it's
Yeah,
growth stunting as well. And so you leave that space and, having a different thought 6 months later is actually just a normal human
yeah.
experience.
I've only really given myself permission to do that
Yeah.
this year. This year,
Yeah.
like I'm 44, but
Yeah.
one of my favorite quotes, I love Tim Minchin, and he says like, you need to take your beliefs out onto the back porch and whack them with a cricket bat. And
Yeah.
I hadn't been able to do that. And even like when we were in the church, we joke often. Look, we loved our pastor. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's just a bit stuck, powerless, whatever. But
Mm.
he used to say, particularly in the last few years, I'll get through like we saw some crazy stuff the last few years, but he would always go, "Don't overthink it. Keep it simple." It's like a few of us in the assembly would look at each other and like, yeah, right. It was just
Yeah.
no critical thought, no space for like he didn't encourage us to read anything other than the King James Bible.
Yeah.
So critical thought was just not one of the tools we had in our arsenal. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even less for women in those spaces,
Oh,
I find. Yeah.
oh heck yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so this was part of our undoing too.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I can talk about this now, it shows that I've worked on myself and I go to a counselor because I have some really deep rooted outspoken woman shame.
Yeah.
So that's part of our story. I don't know if you want me to go into this, but again, part of our unraveling. So I was in my late mid 30s, just wanting to do everything right, wanting to be the perfect wife, perfect mother. I have 3 gorgeous children. They're amazing. No credit to us, they're just good humans. Like, we felt like things were going really well. Happy marriage, these 3 little kids in paradise, and my husband had a lot of long service leave, and
Mm.
we just wanted to be used by the Lord.
Yep.
We were zealous, so we put our hand up. We were asked to go out in a kind of missionary, I suppose,
Mhm.
uh, job,
Yep.
missionary out in Tonga,
Oh,
one of
yes.
the islands. And we're like, that's a bit of an adventure. We just wanted to be useful to God. So
Mhm.
we did 2, 3 month stints in Tonga. And part of being used in our church was you had to leave your kids at home. And we
Oh,
had just seen so many bad experiences with that, bad for the kids and
yeah.
not great for the people that, so we were like, no, 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 we don't do this without our kids.
Mm.
So we paid for the kids to go, which was fine. Again, wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have my job.
Yeah.
So we took our kids. We had 6 months of adventures in Tonga. Felt like it was we loved the place. We loved the people.
Yeah.
Felt it was, oh, look, I have problems with it now. I've
Yeah.
just, I
I was
just,
like, how do you feel about being like,
yeah, no,
just
look, so,
like being white people going into that
yeah,
space? Because I
I
talk about
look,
that about like my, 4-week mission trip to Fiji, which is a colored and Christian nation, as my like little white 19-year-old self.
yeah,
But
look, I have many, many issues with this now.
yeah.
I'm doing a TAFE course. I'm doing community service this year, and I've learnt more about
Mm.
colonialism. I had to unpick my culture and
Yeah.
Indigenous experiences in this area, and I'm deeply disgusted by colonialism, but that's a whole other topic. But the fact
Yeah.
that we just felt like we were on like doing work for the Lord.
Yeah.
And so we got encouraged to
Mm.
move over there, and we're adventurous. We actually were in a category 5 cyclone while we were over there. The
Jeez.
roof of our house ripped off. It was wild, but we've
Gosh.
always been, well, that was an adventure. We kind of, for the kids, we frame everything
Mm.
as an adventure rather than trauma. So
Yeah.
it was, so we're like, this could be a great, and even my dad, he's very wise, and he's like, are you sure? Are you
Mm.
sure you want to do this to your kids? We're like, it'll be fine. It's an adventure. We were young and stupid. Um, so we made plans to do that. Like we had a very happy life here, but we made plans to do that, and we, because of the crazy church rules, we weren't allowed to tell anyone, which was really hard to like sell furniture and stuff when you weren't allowed to. It was
What was
just,
that reasoning?
oh, just, I don't know,
That's
just
weird.
control,
That's a
complete
very
control.
bizarre rule.
Well, in the end, I'm like, oh, look, I've got to sell furniture. And
Yeah.
so the fact that I was on Facebook Marketplace was a problem. But I'm like, mate, no one uses the trading post anymore. Like people just don't do garage sales, they do Facebook Marketplace. So it
Yeah.
was already an issue that I was on social media. Right.
Yeah.
I'd already been flagged that
Yeah, you're
I was
towing
on
the
social
line.
media. So there were already people watching,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And it came right to kind of near the end. And I thought, okay, so I'm in this small town. A lot of people know me
Mm.
and us now in this small town. For me to just disappear would
Mm.
be weirder than me just putting up a post saying, I'm shutting down my business. We're moving
Mm.
to Tonga. So I did up this post. I had some photos that a friend had taken of our family, did a little slideshow, put up a little post, and I got my dad to check it. I got my husband to check it. I got a friend to check it to make sure there was nothing controversial in it.
Yeah.
Just because I knew people were watching me. I knew they
Mm.
didn't like that I had a business and I was on social media. I didn't fit the mold, even though everything I did, I was trying to be a blessing and a good testimony.
Yeah.
And so I posted that, and the next day, my husband got a phone call. He's like, I've got to go talk to our pastor. And I still remember this so clearly. I got home and he's like, we're not moving. We've been told we're not going anymore. And the next minute, the container arrived on the front lawn with
Oh my
the
gosh.
container. And it just broke me. There's no other way to say it. Because everyone knew we were leaving by that point, and then to be
Yeah.
told that we weren't, and he couldn't argue, it was so damaging for both of us. Like I just felt like a pin up for
Yeah.
worst mother, worst wife.
Yeah.
It was so shameful. And I've been thinking lately too, it was so damaging for my husband as well, because at the end of the day, they were the head of the house. So
Yeah.
all the blame, he's like, no, no, it's my fault, obviously. Like, and he didn't say it, but my wife's out of control. That's on me.
Yeah.
So it was deeply shameful for both of us.
Oh.
But we stayed. Like it was never an option to leave because our whole life was in this church, like all our family.
Yeah.
And so we stayed, but we completely lost our zeal. I couldn't give my testimony. I
Mm.
just felt like, who am I to tell anyone how to live their life? I'm an absolute failure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty, particularly when my whole life, all I'd ever wanted to be was a blessing. And to know that, well, not only are you not a blessing, you're a disgrace. Like you
Yeah.
are not fit to be used. So that was a pretty tough time for the
Oh.
family. We were really well supported, but it caused problems for like I think my dad wasn't happy about like it was pretty controversial at
Yeah.
the time, but yeah, it had a pretty big impact on us.
I mean, how
Um
can it not though? Like that's heartbreaking and so oh, there's a word that I'm looking for and I can't find it. I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue. I mean, it's so emotionally manipulative and damaging. Like that's
yeah.
really what it is.
You know the worst part of it? I couldn't tell anyone outside
Yeah.
outside the church. Because how do you explain that to someone? Like, oh
Yeah.
no, 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 I'm an absolute failure as a wife. I'm a bad testament. I didn't fit the little box.
Yeah.
Um, and so I shut my business down. I
Yeah.
just completely shut it down and disappeared off the face of the earth. I really did for a little while. And then my husband said to me, I'm supportive of you shutting it down if it's what you want, but if it's just, he's pretty much like, don't let the bastards win.
Yeah.
So when I was ready, I opened it up, but I could never tell anyone why we didn't move until we've left, and I'll shout it from the rooftops. I don't care,
Mm.
because it's wild. But yeah, look, it did it. It did a number on me, and even like a year later, I was women in our church too. That was the other thing. We were not allowed to speak in the church.
Yeah.
Like there were no women in positions of power
Mm.
at all in our church. Like the biggest job you could have, besides being a pastor's wife, I suppose, was, which you weren't allowed to say anything anyway, was to look
Mm.
after childminding,
Yeah.
look after the childminding roster. And I was given that job, and even in that, I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not a good example. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it took me a good year. We went over to the UK to see my family, and I had some good, we call it fellowship. So
Mm.
some encouraging talk with,
Yeah.
I remember this one night, there were like six of us. It was, no, it was tiny. It was only a few of us, and we talked about overcomings we'd had.
Mm.
Even then, just wanted to be a blessing. And I just mentioned privately that I was still struggling with,
Yeah.
we called it, oh, the words escape me, starts with C, condemnation.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
was still struggling. It's basically shame.
Yeah.
I was still struggling with condemnation over that, which was, I still felt ashamed.
Yeah.
And they were just really encouraging, the girls that were talking to me, and they'd all been through stuff. And
Mm.
I got home and I was feeling really good. So I got up and finally gave a testimony after a year.
Yeah.
How, like, I felt really healed finally. Like I'd had some good fellowship,
Yeah.
been really healed. And as soon as the meeting finished, my pastor's like, I'm really sorry. We need to go chat in the car. So he pulled my husband and I into the car, and he's like, so we need to go to Geelong to speak to the guy in charge. And this private chat that we'd had, one of the girls had mentioned it to her husband, how good the chat was, and mentioned that I was still struggling with condemnation, and rang up. He rang up the pastor in charge. And so I had to go, and so even I was told off for being shamed, like for feeling
Oh.
shameful. I got in trouble for
Oh
like
my gosh.
still feeling shameful. So that was a wild time. So that kind of just pushed me right back down again. But
Oh, I can't imagine why. Like,
and
I'm
that
sitting here and I'm like raging on your behalf.
it was
And
just
like,
life for women. And the
gosh.
other thing was, so there was one guy in charge of the church. Sorry, I'm really rambling, by
Oh,
the way.
no, it's fine.
There was one man in charge. He's on the Pray Harder podcast. His name's Noel Hollins. He
Mm.
was like the apostle, self-appointed. Um, and he met with us after we were told that we weren't fit for
Mm.
purpose, met us in a cafe in a shopping centre in Geelong. And I just determined to not say, I've honestly, at this point, I was broken. There was nothing I was going to say. I was not going to justify myself. I just wanted to be swallowed by the ground. So I just sat there quietly, let my husband do all the talking, and I just had a few tears.
Yeah.
And I just wiped them out. I just sat quietly. I was respectful. I was quiet. And afterwards, he said to my husband, yeah, she was a bit of an emotional woman, wasn't she? Like, you just told me that I'm useless and worthless and not fit. And I had a few tears, and I'm an emotional wreck. So,
Oh my gosh, the
yeah.
audacity of these men.
Just to give
Far
you an
out.
idea of like, that was what we lived in. There was no like, no emotion, no, yeah, nah, none of that. It was
I
like
mean,
robots.
and we sit here and we like have like a laughing tone to this conversation because I think it's one of those situations where you're just like, if you don't,
Yeah, you'll cry. Yeah, yeah.
it's like it's disastrous to like it's so painful to sit with that idea and like it's just also so absurd
Yeah,
as
it,
well.
if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And the
Yeah.
irony now, right? This is what stopped me speaking up for a long time, because I'm like, it's like I'm proving them right. It's like, we told you she was an outspoken woman. Anyway, it's like self-fulfilling prophecy over here.
Yeah.
But back then, all I wanted to do was be a blessing. I wasn't outspoken, believe it or not. I wasn't. I was
Yeah.
obedient. I was positive. Like I knew my role and I stuck to it.
Mm.
Obviously not enough. So, but
Oh,
yeah, so that was kind of well, my son, it was probably 7 years ago.
Yeah.
That was kind of like the start. Because if
Okay.
you're not right in it, if you're
Mm.
not right in the middle, which we were like
Yeah.
right in the middle. If you're not right in the middle, it's kind of a miserable,
Mm.
you're on the edges. And they always say that, like, it's no fun on the edges. You want to be in the middle
Yeah.
because we didn't fit in the world. We had no friends. I had no desire to leave,
Yeah.
but I felt like a
Yeah.
shameful woman. I said to one of my friends, I feel like I don't fit here anymore, but leaving was never an option. It just wasn't because I
Yeah.
knew, haven't even started on shunning. I feel very strongly about shunning, but
Yeah.
that
I
was the,
mean,
yeah.
my first thought is like, because you mentioned that you've been out for about 3 years now.
Yeah.
So what was that 4 years like?
Uh, we had we had a big family. We had really good friends,
Yeah.
and we had friends who rallied around us. The assembly here was good. But there were so many, we call them what, the moments. Like the
Yeah.
last few years in there, there was like a situation in Leone where the guy in charge there was dealing in blood diamonds. And it was like there were so many crazy pastors, like lawful saying nut job stuff. And we'd all just be like, you'd
Okay.
find your people and you'd be like, how do we survive? What is going on here? Like
Yeah.
it was getting crazier and crazier because the guy in charge was only putting pastors in charge or helps in charge who were little minions and yes men
Yeah.
and would just further
Yeah.
would just encourage the kind of black and white thinking and
Yeah.
yeah, so and then in the end the thing that, do you want me to talk about
Yeah.
how we, yeah, sorry, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm
No,
totally
it's all good.
so in the end my dad's still a pastor in the UK, and there'd been another guy sent over to a situation which was 2 hours from where my dad was living. And he was not a great pastor. I'll be
Mm.
honest, I'm being kind. He
Mm.
was sociopath.
Yeah.
And he's over years, like at first, dad had tried to encourage him to go
Mm.
gently, and they were friends. He was encouraging him. And then he was such a brute. In the end, this it had been going on for years.
Yeah.
His assembly, this other new pastor,
Mm.
his assembly sent a letter to the man in charge in Geelong, Noel Holland, saying, please help us. Please send someone over to review our situation because we're not being fed. He's not a kind man.
Oh
Please
my
help us. A private
God.
letter. But he sent over his bulldog, who is now in charge of the church because Noel Hollands has passed away. And basically, he just kicked out everyone who signed this letter. There were 20 of them. In a tiny assembly of like 30 people, he kicked them all out.
Yeah.
So he decimated his assembly because he was but these were the men he was putting in charge, right?
Mm.
And so my dad wrote a private letter to the guy in charge saying how much he didn't agree with the way the whole situation was handled and how he'd handled COVID and felt they were above the law. And friends of ours had passed away from COVID complications because we all thought we were above the law. Well, in
Yeah.
Geelong, they thought they were above the law. Anyway, this private letter, in the end, dad was kicked out. Basically, it's a long story, but his help went behind his back and said to them, if you stand with him, my dad, Jeremy, then you will lose your families. And they all had family. We've all got families. It's all interlinked. We've all got families. If you stand with him, you'll lose everyone. So they all were like, nah, we don't. All because of a private letter that he sent saying he wasn't happy with the situation. So my dad and another, there was two of them that had spoken up about this. It was just easier to sell the party line that they had interfered
Yeah.
than this guy that was put in charge was a bad choice.
Yeah.
So basically, my dad got kicked out, and Noel Hollands got up and explained that these two pastors had been kicked out, and then called them antichrists. Although he was,
That escalated quick.
it did escalate, but he was very clever. He would never outright say it. He would imply it. So he'd be
Yeah.
like, these two pastors have chosen to leave, whatever, they interfered. And then you go, let's open the scriptures too. In the last days, the Antichrist shall come. So he never, like, he's like, I didn't actually call them that, but
It
like
was heavily insinuated.
implicitly implied. So they were calling
Yeah.
them awful names, awful names. So
Oh,
basically my dad and my mum and my sister and her husband and their little kids, they were all in the same. So my sister married a Brit, so she got to stay there.
yeah.
They were immediately shunned by everyone. And because my dad was so well loved, like genuinely, he
Yeah.
worked out because we were so hospitable. We had a lot of people stay at our house. He reckoned he'd had over 500 people in our life stay at our house.
Oh my
No
goodness.
one.
Yeah.
Just or my mum's eldest of six. There was one of my uncles and his wife left with them and their son and his wife, and that's basically it. There's been a few more trickle down, but they encouraged us to stay because we had a good assembly here, good assembly here in Warrnambool, and we saw what happened to them. Like they were, it's shunning.
Oh,
It's pure. Like I have big thoughts on shunning.
yeah.
I believe that's the main reason most people can't leave
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
shunning. That's why would you do that to your family? And so dad was like, stay with it, stay in Warrnambool. Like our pastor's a good guy. He was friends with my dad, felt
Mm,
the same as my dad, but in the end, he saw what happened to my dad. So why would he stand up and then lose his
yeah.
assembly too? So we stuck around for a good 9 months,
Yeah.
which was even then my whole wanting to be a blessing, wanting to be uplifting. I couldn't talk about it with anyone.
Yeah.
Like and because COVID had happened this time too, I hadn't actually seen my family for 4 years. So this all happened and we couldn't even sit down together and talk about it. I just had to pretend like they were not in my life. Although, sorry, this is a really
No,
long
it's
story.
fine.
So they ended up they were heartbroken. Like
Yeah.
my
I
dad was
mean,
in.
you're right. Like, shunning is disgusting. It is the most fear-based, humiliation-based practice that,
Yeah.
you're right, keeps people in there because the alternative to be shunned is just the ultimate form of humiliation and
Yeah.
isolation.
Yeah,
It's
well, because
it's
we don't have
so
a life.
painful.
We don't
Yeah.
have a life out. It's all by design, right?
Yeah.
It's all control. I've learned all this now. It's all
Yeah.
controlled by design. We're not encouraged to have friends outside the church, have a life
Yeah.
outside, have any community except for within. So you can't leave it.
No.
You can't, it's all you've known,
Yeah.
and you know that you'll be shunned. So watching them go, it was awful. It was it was heartbreaking. My sister's kids, little kids, lost their cousins and friends like that. Like no one, like this church, we believe that anyone outside the church is bound for hell. So why would you not be trying to save people? It's just
The
it's a
irony.
lot. It's a lot. But they ended up they found themselves at another church, which was actually what we'd broken away from in the
Right.
70s. And because they hadn't been led by one guy, they were a lot healthier, less controlling, more
Yeah.
fruitful, bigger. So my parents joined it. Dad calls them his Good Samaritans. They welcomed them into the fold. They continued their life and their broken hearts were healed and
Yeah.
they had this new community, which was great for them. So we were watching that happen on one side. And then on our side, I couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Um, I was like, okay. And it was confusing, but I'm like, by their fruits, I'll know them. Like, I still, even then, I'm like,
Mm.
where's the lesson in this? Where's like, what am I meant to do? What are we meant to do? Because we didn't want to put our kids through that. Like we
Of
saw.
course. Yeah.
I was so proud of my dad. I was also so proud of him for his integrity. Like he stood up for people who needed standing up for,
Yeah.
and in the end lost everyone.
Yeah.
But I was so proud of him. So I knew if it push come to shove, I knew which side I was going to choose.
Yeah.
But we kind of prolonged it as long as we could. And
Mm.
they were coming over for a holiday at like 9 months later, and we mentioned to our pastor, we're like, look, mum and dad are coming.
Yeah.
They're going to be staying with us like they always do. And he's like, well, they can't. They can't.
Oh,
So we had to go and see the guy in charge again about this. He handballed us up to the head guy, and he was like, nah, you can't, like, they're not allowed to sleep in your house. I'm like, I'm not sending my elderly parents to a caravan park or a motel. They're staying here. So anyway, we thought about it for a while. We went to a Sunday meeting, and at lunchtime we said to our pastor, so they're staying. We've decided they're staying in our house. Look, we could have kept it all secret, but it's a small town. People would have seen it. And
yeah.
we respected him enough we wanted to be honest. So he was like, well, you can't be here. So I went and got the kids,
Oh my
got to the
goodness.
car, and that's us done. We've never been back.
What was that moment like though? Like hearing him essentially say, "Well, you can't be here."
Um, heartbreaking. But
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I had 9 months to plan. Like I would go to the meeting during that year and
Mm.
I'd sit there and I knew how proud I was of my dad that
Yeah.
he'd done that. And I'm like, there's going to come a point where I'm going to have to make a choice and
Mm.
none of these people are ever going to speak to me again. So I would go to every meeting thinking, none of you are going to be my friends soon. And so that was heartbreaking
Yeah.
every week. And so when that finally happened, I just thought we were out of fellowship. I went and got the kids because we'd set up for the next meeting. We had to take them out to the car. And my husband, unbeknownst to me, stayed talking a bit longer and he shook his hand. He looked him in the eye, said, just give her a chance to see her parents. It's been 4 years. She just wants to sit down and talk to them in person. I'll bring my family back. Because my husband was determined to come back.
Yeah.
And um, and then at the next meeting, he got up and told everyone that we were proud and that we left and to cut us off. And like that night, I still remember sitting on the couch, knowing that everyone was at the meeting. It was a weird time. We're like, what do we do with ourselves on a Wednesday night? We went to 3 meetings a week. Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
And my like, it's just social media, right? But it was significant. Everyone unfriended, unfollowed. Like I
Oh,
lost most of my social media friends overnight. It was it was heartbreaking that night. I cried a lot. And then the next morning, our 14-year-old son got sent a text message and he forwarded on. He's like, Mum and Dad, how do I respond to this? He got encouraged to leave home so he could come back to the church.
oh
And
my
I
gosh.
saw red. I'm like, you can say what you want about me, but do not come for my kids. And I saw red. Like I
Oh,
was in the middle of Woolies spinning around going, oh, I want to hit something. I'm going to hit something.
yeah.
I'm actually going to lose it. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I rang my husband. I'm like, I'm going around to our pastor's doorstep right now. Do you want to meet me there? And I just got there. I'm like, what has happened? And why would I ever come back here?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that was pretty much, that was the last time we've been in the hall. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that it was hard with the kids, I'm not gonna lie. But it got worse actually, to be
Yeah.
honest. Sorry, it's a really
No,
long
like
story.
I feel like it always does because like the leaving, like the part where you were cut off, or
Mm,
like whether like a very like straight cut off, not allowed to come back, or whether you make the decision to leave for whatever reason, I feel like that's the start of a new part. It's the start of a new chapter. It's the start of a
yeah,
new part of your story.
yeah,
And so it is one of those things that I think it feels like it gets worse before it gets better because
yeah,
it's like the grief and the isolation and the silence and like all of that is
mm,
just so painful.
yeah. We
That
did.
yeah.
We thought it was temporary though. Like we thought, I'll have mum and dad here,
Yeah.
get to talk to them, and then decide what we want to do, and we'll do our time because our pastor was really lenient. Like he was famously lenient. He's like, just come back. So we kind of expected that, but what we didn't factor for was he was getting so much pressure from
Yeah.
above because of the, as he called it, the was it high profile nature of my dad. And so that not what I didn't mention, that 9 months while we were still in,
Mm.
he was constantly thanking us for not setting off bombs. He's like, thank you for keeping what you know to yourself. Even then, I was striving to be a good example. I was striving not to, because it was messing me up,
Oh,
my spiritual. I didn't want to mess anyone else up. So there were a few people I could say things, but I barely talked about it. One of my friends, I said, I just want to talk to my mum and dad. Like, I just want to be able to have a conversation about it. She's like, but they've left us. You can't. They've left. And I'm like, I can't even talk to my friends.
yeah.
And I did, thankfully, I had a few, but they're all still in there. And so now they're not my friends. But
Yeah.
um, he would, he was thanking us for still being a good testimony. And I wish I'd been more outspoken. That's one thing I regret. I
Yeah.
wish I'd set off those bombs. I wish people knew what I know. That's, I suppose, why I'm talking up now. But yeah,
Yeah.
even then, like, still striving to be a good testimony. Um,
Hmm.
but then, so yeah, it was shocking, but we thought it was temporary, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I keep saying too, I was so lucky. Like, I'm one of the lucky ones. I left with my
Yeah.
husband, with our kids. We've got a tight little family unit. I've got my parents. I've got my sister. So,
Mm.
and family who left around this time. So I'm one of the lucky ones. Like
Mm.
so many, most leave on their own and
Yeah.
have nothing. And
Yeah.
that's, I cannot even comprehend how damaging and hard that is.
Yeah.
So we were lucky. We were really lucky. We had beautiful support. And also in this beautiful town, we'd made friends.
Yeah.
So thankfully, we've been really well supported.
Mm.
The week actually was 10 days after that time, and everyone had cut us off. My husband's mum died.
Mm.
Um, that's a whole other story, actually. She was kicked
Yeah.
out of the church about 15 years prior because she had diagnosed schizophrenia,
Ah.
and it was too hard basket. Um, so she was kicked out of the church, and she still lived with my father-in-law at home. And I try not to talk about this too much because I don't want to upset
Yeah.
Adam's family. They won't believe that, but I really do try to tread carefully there.
Yeah.
So she was already out of the church. She was already, and my father-in-law still attended. He still
Mm.
does attend the church, as does Adam's brother and his family. Um, but she passed away, and Adam got, I could count on one hand the amount of condolence messages he got from these people who were 10 days before his brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Like, and that broke him. It
Yeah.
broke him. He's like, I'm getting more kindness on the street than these people who, because he'd come along when he was about 4. So
Yeah.
this was his community. And it, yeah, it was cruel, basically.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was
Cruel
cruel.
is the word that comes to
Yeah.
mind for me as well, because
Yeah.
it's very intentional and it doesn't have to be that way. And that it's like there is a choice there to actively choose to
Mm.
cut someone off to do the
Yeah.
things that they're doing. And yeah, I think cruel is the only word that encapsulates that.
So
Um,
I have strong thoughts on shunning.
yeah,
Particularly, it
absolutely.
doesn't work for the
No.
reasons they think it does. So I'm quite outspoken about it. But
Yeah.
so even at her funeral, we had the wake at our house because she left the church, she was agoraphobic as well as schizophrenic. She didn't have many friends, so we didn't think it would be big. So we had the wake here.
Yeah.
And the few people who came from the church to support Adam's family, they would not step foot inside our house for the wake. And so yeah,
Oh,
that were probably
yeah.
the pivotal points. And then another time, but I kept my mouth shut even then. Like, I've only just started speaking up this year.
Yeah.
It's probably after my grandma's funeral,
Mm.
the matriarch of our family, that she was still in the church, or my uncles and aunties. So they completely cut us off.
Yeah.
I absolutely adored my uncles and aunties and my cousins. Like, I was the eldest of
Yeah.
a huge group, and we all loved each other. Like, we're all great mates. They completely cut us off.
Yeah.
Very self-righteous. But anyway, won't go there. My grandma died last year. Yeah, last year.
Yeah.
Um, and my husband and I went to the church service. We went to the burial. We stood on one side, they all stood on the other. And I couldn't bring myself to approach them. Like, I get quite anxious when I see people who have
Yeah.
shunned me. I
Yeah.
find I'm still struggling with that a bit, but
I think that's a normal human response, Jodie, just for the
oh,
record.
it's just awful. I'm like, I
Yeah.
keep saying to my kids, we've got nothing to be ashamed of.
Oh,
Don't let
no.
them make you feel like that. But even myself, like, oh, if I see certain people, my hands get anyway.
Yeah.
But the worst part, it was a whole long story, but my husband and I we walked back into the hall for their, like, assembly,
Yeah.
the big funeral
The
memorial.
service. Yeah.
And we walked in and sat behind a pastor who used to be a friend of ours. He turned around and went, "Oh, it's you," and which we just laughed. We're like, "Really?" It's my grandma. Anyway, and I was her favorite too, just putting it out there. I was the eldest.
Yeah.
But it came to the slideshow at the end, and there was not one photo of me, of my mum, of my kids, my mum was her eldest. I was her eldest grandchild. My kids were her eldest great grandchildren. Not one photo of us or our families or my other uncle who left. There were photos of other people who left the family, and ironically, two of my cousins that had a little stint in jail, they made it, but we didn't. So, like, we were
Oh.
dead to them.
Yeah, it's the erasure that I think is the
Yes.
most painful aspect
Yes.
of both shunning and excommunication, but it's the erasure that
they genuinely would prefer you to be dead.
And even like I say it's worse than as if a family member's
Yeah.
died because they won't even talk about you. Like
No.
we used to like the photo albums, you cross out ones that had left.
Yeah.
Like
Ugh.
it's wild. It actually makes me laugh because I was such a good girl. I was always like, doing items at our camps. I
Yeah.
played the violin and and not for any, like, it was never self-glory. Oh my goodness, no, but just, glory to the Lord. And it kind of makes me laugh now because I was on a lot of the camp CDs. We used to do like greatest hits from camp. And I've just destroyed camp CDs for so many people because they won't listen to songs that backsliders have sung. So I'm like, I kind of
Gosh.
love that. I've
I love
destroyed that
that.
for a few people. But
Yeah,
yeah,
the irony of that is great.
yeah.
I
But it's
love
just,
that.
yeah, the erasure of like my history. Not many people that are in my life now, except for like my parents and that knew me as a child.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that they were the two. And I think that just flicked a switch in me with my uncles and that. Like it
Mm.
was so cruel. It was just like that's shunning. It's meant to punish those who leave and to entrap those who are still there.
Yeah.
Because, like, why would you put yourself through that? You know what it looks like.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
there's no way to spin it that it's good for you. There's just not. So after that, I was just like, you know what? Why am I protecting these
Mm.
people? That if there was any hope of reconciliation,
Yeah.
that's why people don't speak up.
Yeah.
But I felt like we were so far beyond that.
Yeah.
And then the Vic inquiry happened. And
Yeah.
if there's ever a time that it's good to be talking about this, it's now. So that's kind of why I
Yeah.
started. And that's a whole other beast because
Yes.
they hate you. You know
Yeah.
what they say about people who speak up, the
Yeah.
character assassination.
Mm.
So I've had to work on my outspoken woman shame big time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what has even just like the last 12 months of learning language of shunning and coercive control and thought reform and indoctrination and like all of the language that helps us understand so much of what we've experienced. Like, what has that done for you in understanding
Oh,
all of
it's
that?
just absolutely liberating.
Yeah,
Just being able to put words
yeah,
to so many of the things that I didn't like, I couldn't quite pinpoint.
yeah,
And I think that's one reason. Oh, it's absolutely liberating. Coercive control. That's the other thing I'm so passionate about, like
yeah,
systemic coercive control. But um, the one thing, my purpose, and it's not just
mm,
to slag off where I came from at all. Even still, I'm still that person. I want to be a positive
mm,
impact. And I hate the narrative that people who leave are miserable
yeah,
and destitute and lost
yeah,
because that's another tool. It's just all control and fear. Like our whole system was based on control and fear. Basically, is now what I see. Not a whole lot of love in there. It was all control and fear. And that's just another tool. I'm like, you know what? I can take back this narrative
mm,
and show people that we're thriving. Like my kids are ridiculously resilient, amazing people. And
yeah,
they're thriving, we're thriving. It's not this doom and gloom
mm,
that people fear it is. And so I suppose my little tiny corner of the internet, that's what I'm trying to,
mm,
it's just talk about. I try to approach everything with empathy because I am ashamed to say I was part of that system for 40 years. Like I know how it works. I know how it messes with your head. I know how it entraps you in fear.
mm-hmm,
So I try to really keep that in the forefront, like
yeah,
empathy, because I know how that feels. I know what it feels like to be unhappy,
yeah,
but can't do anything about it because, like, what's the option? I lose everyone, and I
yeah,
don't know what the world looks like. I don't have friends out there. So,
yeah,
yeah, I'm trying to, even now, even though they'll say I'm just attacking, I'm really trying to
yeah.
be a positive influence in that still.
Yeah. I mean,
Can't,
I think that's one of the hardest parts of deconstruction and processing all of this stuff is the role that you once played in it. Like I'm sitting here like married to a woman, proud queer person, but like a decade ago, I was not that person. I was the person still telling other queer people that they could not be queer and that they needed to repent
yeah,
and so like there is so much grief and pain attached to the part that you played in that system.
yeah,
But you would like we were just as indoctrinated and controlled and manipulated as well. And so it's just this
yeah,
weird tension that you need to hold where you were both a victim and a perpetrator, but the perpetrator part of you was because you were so heavily controlled and indoctrinated, and it's
Yeah.
just messy,
And
right?
that's where the empathy comes in, right? Because it is
Yeah.
I have so much shame. Like, I didn't leave and reach out to people who'd left before me because I was so
Yeah.
ashamed that I didn't follow them up. And
Yeah.
I love that people reach out to me now. And
Yeah.
look, there was this group, there's a Facebook group of ex-members, and I didn't join that for about a year because
Yeah.
I was like, the rhetoric around people who leaves, they're all bitter and
Yeah.
twisted. And I don't want to be part of that. But honestly, I've loved that group for the reconnections that I've made and people
Yeah.
who actually understand where we've come from. And so I kind of wanted to be
Mm.
that in my little corner. I've got a tiny little Instagram page, but I've had so many beautiful people I didn't know well, but have come from that church.
Yeah.
Because not many are free to speak up because they hope for or they have had reconciliation with a few in there with family, and if they speak up, that's gone again. So I understand it. I understand why people can't.
Yeah.
And I'm the first one to say, like, I'm deeply ashamed of my
Yeah.
part in that.
Yeah.
And I like to think I was never cruel,
Yeah.
but I still held those beliefs.
Yeah.
Like, and I felt deeply uncomfortable with telling people they weren't right. I like to think I didn't do that, but I was part of that system. Like,
Yeah.
I believe that. So just being part of it, I
Yeah.
perpetrated that. So
Yeah.
I perpetuated it. So that it's a hard thing because I don't want to live in shame.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we all have agency, but also so many in there don't. They just
No.
don't. I know so many
Yeah.
friends who are stuck in there that can't leave because their husbands won't, or know they'll lose, like their kids will lose their grandparents, they'll lose like it's a
Yeah.
disgusting tangled web. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, these are the last couple of questions that I usually ask in these episodes. And I'm interested to hear your answer to this question because there's been a couple of things that you've said that might suggest that you might have absolutely no flipping idea.
Yeah,
But
most likely.
um, where is your sense of spirituality now?
Oh, that's a good question. Full disclosure, I don't go anywhere to
Yeah.
church. So this church that my parents joined and my family joined, I joined that
Yeah.
for a while and I stepped away this year. Hence me
Mm.
saying this is the first time I just
Yeah.
needed space. I needed space to unpack what
Yeah.
was doctrine and indoctrinated my whole life and what I really believed.
Yeah.
Um, we've talked about how I feel about speaking in tongues. That was a big part of
Yeah.
it. But for me, what I found was I discovered surfing with my kids during COVID. We live at
Oh,
the beach. So the ocean, it sounds so twee and it sounds so cliche, but walking my dog when we first got kicked out on the beach saved my mental health.
yeah.
I know that it did. So I quickly learned that I need to get out in nature and I need to move my body. So
Mm-hmm.
I would go into the ocean and I'd feel so calm. Or
Yeah.
I'd walk in nature and I'd be so calm and so happy. Like I feel really more than I ever have in my life. I feel genuinely peaceful. And I didn't think that would happen
Yeah.
by not going to church. But so for me, like nature
Yeah.
and surrounding myself with good people, like I joined and community. I joined an all abilities choir called
Oh, I love that.
Oh my goodness, honestly, I cry
Oh,
every I really miss singing. I love singing.
yeah.
And I had friends who were part of it. I'd wanted to join for a while and I just knew it would be wholesome. So
Yeah.
my daughter and I went to that and it is honestly the most beautiful, wholesome display of humanity I have ever seen. Ever.
Yeah.
And it's just the best. And I end up crying. I mean, I'm very menopausal, so I cry at everything. But honestly, that to me, that surrounding myself with good community
Yeah.
and nature, I get out in nature at the beach and go, I can't explain all this, and I'm okay with that. I'm curious. I love being able to tell my kids and model to my kids, which is, I haven't even talked about this. This is probably my most important driver is what am I modeling to my kids?
Yeah.
And I want them to have choice and agency in their life
Yeah.
and that it's okay to make mistakes. I just feel like we had so much pressure put on us
Yeah.
that I don't want my kids to be under. So we're still navigating life without those boundaries, like I keep saying, I don't have time for an existential crisis. I've got teenagers. I just don't. I don't like not just like midlife crisis, but existential crisis.
Oh,
And I'm
absolutely.
like, but you know what? It's okay for them to see that I don't profess to have any answers. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't think anyone does. I really, truly don't believe anyone knows. So that's where I've come to.
Yeah.
So it's okay to be curious.
Yeah.
It's okay to challenge your beliefs. And
Hmm.
that's what I want to model to my kids. So that's where I'm at now.
I love that.
Curious, no idea, but loving the journey, like really loving. And I've
Yeah.
met so many amazing people through questioning things like yourself, like
Yeah.
just the Religious Trauma Collective. Like,
Mm.
and I know everyone from my church will eye roll religious
Yeah.
trauma, but it is a thing.
All right.
Like,
They can eye roll it all they
they
like.
can eye roll, I roll at everything I say, honestly. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. Sorry,
Yeah.
long
No,
way
I love that. And, I feel like it just echoes back what I had said earlier on, which is that nature will lead people out far more than truth
Oh,
will.
seriously, it's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah.
And right, and
Oh,
counseling, like I've had
yeah.
to go to a counselor because of my like, and I'm the first one to say, I didn't suffer any trauma in there. Like I didn't have any abuse. Honestly, the crazy abuse I've heard because I've now got this platform, tiny little platform, but the amount of people that have come to me
Yeah.
with their stories, and I it's made me unpick that whole system. Like that whole system, I believe to be so problematic. I haven't
Yeah.
even gone into that. The fact that we're raised to be completely compliant, obedient, never question adults.
Yeah.
We're expected to implicitly trust everyone
Hmm.
in our assembly. So I got quite I actually can't have people stay at my house anymore. I just had a house full
Yeah.
of teenagers for my daughter's birthday, but like we were just expected to trust. And I let people into my house I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And I got quite resentful that we were so naive. Thankfully, nothing ever happened, but I just, makes me cringe. Like it is the perfect breeding ground and perfect paradise for predators.
Yep.
We
Sure
haven't even got
is.
into that, but I have strong feelings on that now too.
Yeah, and I
So,
think for anybody who is interested, like the GRC was like a particular part and quite a prominent part of what
yeah,
prompted the inquiry. And so, like, there is very strong language around the cult behaviors that you see in that space. So, if you are interested, go to Jodie's page, go to like I think it's Stop Religious Coercion
yes, yeah,
Australia on Instagram, the podcast that you mentioned. There are plenty of spaces that talk about GRC and the in less about the behaviors and less about the beliefs and far more about the behaviors
yeah,
in the system
absolutely.
that are incredibly dangerous, really problematic,
Which
and
is so many groups.
absolutely cult-like.
Yeah, and so many groups. It's just,
Yeah,
it's the way, and it is. It's a, and also the men who are like dominant, like they're encouraged by not only the pastor's behavior, but by the speak to be
Mhm.
rulers of their house. So the amount of cases of domestic violence I've heard
Yeah,
about, and the people that are stuck there, and I've had women reach out to me who are in there who said, "Please keep talking because I can't leave."
yeah,
Like that's heartbreaking, but yeah, so the
yeah,
system I believe to be so deeply problematic too, and I talk a bit about that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, my final question is always to offer some encouragement for people, and I think you might actually be um, probably one of the freshest in
Oh,
reflecting in this space that I've had on the podcast. And so I'm wondering, like, whether you can offer some encouragement who might be in a similar time span to you, who are still, you know, unpacking this in the first few years of coming out. What would you say
um,
to those people?
or I would say, trust your gut.
Yeah,
If it doesn't feel right, probably doesn't, and be kind to yourself.
yeah,
Don't be afraid to ask for help. Speak to a
mm,
counselor. Like honestly, again, I would have eye rolled at that because
yeah,
mental health wasn't a thing. I haven't even touched on that, but
yeah,
mental health wasn't. We were not encouraged to seek mental health, medical help, any of that. But I'm very much on the lookout for residual damage to my kids.
yeah,
And so that'll be the first thing I encourage them to do is speak to someone. But for
mm,
those still even locked in, be honest. Be honest to your friends if you feel like you can. Be honest to your family because I know so many people in the same big families that are not happy And I feel like just putting them all in a room and saying, hey, be honest with each other and you can all leave together.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's so many like that, but just be kind to yourself. Find what works for you. And it's so different for everyone. Like it really is. But the things that have helped me, connection, I love talking to people. And I have found too, when I've been honest about my story, I've had nothing but love. So be honest. You have nothing to be ashamed of, particularly us, I think, who are born and raised.
Yeah.
I'm not carrying that shame. I'm like, nah, I didn't know any different. And anytime I've been honest, I've just been met with so much kindness, so much like understanding. So yeah, be honest, find a community, find something that makes your brain and your heart feel good and do it. And yeah, don't be afraid to reach out for help. And there's so many of us now. There are so many leavers who are thriving or can be honest if they're not. Like I feel like it's a really good time. I was really lucky to leave a cult at this time because there's so many resources. Like there just are. So reach out to people because you'll be met with kindness. I think that's the biggest fallacy that the world's out to get us. It's just not true. It's it's not been my experience. So I reject that.
I love that that's what we're finishing on. I think that's so good. The world is not out to get you. I love
we're not
that.
that
It is the
special.
biggest lie.
Oh, but the arrogance around that, thinking that anybody else cares about attacking us spiritually. Like we're all busy in our own lives.
I know.
I just think that's how arrogant were we to think that the world was out to get us. Like nobody cares. Just live your life.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so honored to be your first podcast. I feel so
thanks for letting me ramble.
Oh, I love rambling. I love a good ramble. But thank you for sharing so openly and vulnerably. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for letting me overshare.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Beyond the Surface. I hope you found today's conversation as insightful and inspiring as I did. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others who might benefit from these stories. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and more content. I love connecting with all of you. Remember, no matter where you are on your journey, you're not alone. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep moving forward. Take care.